Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Picture this, you buy a piece of land with a simple handwritten note. You pay almost all the money and use the land for years. But then, land prices skyrocket and the seller suddenly tries to cancel the deal, claiming the papers weren't official enough. Can they really do that? In today's video, I'll share a real-life legal battle where justice protected the buyer in a powerful way. Today's story revolves around a very specific but common legal scenario, a land transfer agreement made before January 1st, 2017. The catch? It was never not notarized or officially authenticated. However, the buyer had already stepped up and fulfilled at least two-thirds of their total obligations. Does the law side with the person holding the official title, or the person who actually paid and used the land? Let's find out. In 2009, Mr. C and Miss L, the sellers, agreed to sell a future resettlement land plot to Mr. M and Miss N, the buyers. The agreement was made in a handwritten document with an initial price of VND 90 million, which the buyers paid in full. At that time, however, the land had not yet been allocated by the state, so the parties could not notarize or register the transfer. In 2011, when the state marked the land boundaries, the originally expected plot no longer existed. Instead, the land became three frontage plots, including Plot A. The parties then orally agreed to switch to Plot A with a new price of VND 120 million. The buyers paid a total of 110 million VND, nearly the full amount, and began using the land, leasing it out for a shop, and even building a foundation. In 2016, the sellers will finally grant the land use rights certificate. Instead of finalizing the transfer as promised, they tried to back out. Why? Most likely because the land was now worth significantly more than it was 7 years prior. Now, let's move to the arguments of the parties. The buyers argued that they had already paid VND 110 million out of 120 million, which is more than two-thirds of the total price. The land had been handed over and used stably for many years. Therefore, the court should recognize the contract as valid. The sellers claimed that the contract was invalid because 1. It was only a handwritten agreement without notarization or authentication. 2. The land was allegedly family property, but only the husband and wife signed the contract. 3. At the time of signing, the land did not yet legally exist. And 4. They requested the court to invalidate the contract, return the money, and recover the land. The first instant court found that the buyers had performed most of their contractual obligations. Although the contract violated formal requirements, it was being performed in reality. Based on the rule that a transaction performed by at least two-thirds may be recognized, the court recognized the contract as valid and ordered the sellers to complete the land transfer procedures. However, at the first appellate review, the court held that the contract seriously violated form requirements, and there were disputes regarding the rights of family members. As a result, the court did not recognize the contract and declared it invalid. After several rounds of legal proceedings, the court issued a definitive ruling that changed everything, first applying favorable law. Although the contract was signed in 2009, the court applied the 2015 Civil Code because the transaction was still being performed. 2. Overcoming formal defects. Even though the contract was not notarized, the buyers had already paid 110 out of 120 million VND, which means more than two-thirds of their obligation. 3. Family property issue. The land use rights certificate was issued to the individual seller, not to a household. Therefore, no consent from the children was required. And 4. Final ruling. The contract was recognized as legally valid. The buyers were entitled to register the land use rights themselves without the seller's cooperation. The buyers were required to pay the remaining VND 10 million. Let's move to the golden rule. This dispute leaves us with a critical lesson. Don't panic if you are holding a handwritten property contract, as long as you have fulfilled at least two-thirds of your obligation, usually by paying at least two-thirds of the price, and have taken actual possession of the land. The law prevents sellers from exploiting minor technical paperwork errors to flip a deal just because the price went up. However, the best advice remains the same. Always have your contracts notarized to avoid years of legal stress like the parties in this story. That is the end of my presentation today. Thanks for watching and see you in my next video.